Thank you, Emily, and welcome everyone. It's always nice to get together with potential customers, existing customers, resellers, to talk about our product. And of course, this year, we're very busy with that because of our new release. Our new release 8.5 has garnered massive amounts of attention from the industry analysts and our existing customers and our potential customers. It's one of the biggest releases we've ever done, and it seems to be just focused exactly right for what people are looking for right now. So what we're going to try and do today is talk about this new product, what's in it, and kind of what's out there for you if you want to look at getting maybe more information as well. So for us, of course, the release process started sometime in January, getting ready for everything. A release like this takes a lot of work. But officially, the press release and channel announcements went out on the 6th a little while ago, and last Thursday it actually went into general ship. So this is the current shipping version of the product, and we've certainly had it out in beta and alpha testing for many, many, many months. We have a lot of customers who have it out there. It's proven to be one of our rock-solid releases, which we like. But because there's so much in it, we've had to not only spend all the time engineering all these new features, but we've had to do a massive amount of work on all the collateral, because there are things we're talking about now that are new and exciting and I mean unknown in most cases to most people. So the whole explain what you have piece of the product release is much bigger than it normally is. And for those of you that have any interest after this in learning more about the product, if you go out to our website, avst.com, you're going to see lots of information and movies and brochures and everything else that will take this process of talking about the product much further than we can today, of course. What we're going to do kind of is, at this amount of time we have for a webinar, we're going to go through just the highlights, and we're going to talk about kind of what's in the product, what it means, how maybe it changes how you can do business, and it adds some functionality to your enterprise and to your business processes that maybe you hadn't been aware of, and then some of the general improvements in the product, of course, that are always in a new release. And we'll go through every one of these categories in not a lot of detail, but enough so you'll understand what it is. And then if that generates interest, of course, you have lots of channels to get in touch with us and our dealers and get a lot more information. So the branding is finally complete. The branding started, I think, over a year ago, and the branding was a fairly simple concept. We've been in business for almost 30 years, and we had a product name that was recognized as the best voicemail out there, which is certainly nothing to be ashamed of, but we're so much more than voicemail right now. There's so many things we do, and we decided that what we needed was a new name to reflect kind of the new product direction and capabilities. So we changed Call Express to CX. Now, many of us had been calling it CX before then. It was a very logical change, but I'm very happy to say that as of this release, the complete branding on all of our documentation, screens, user interfaces is complete. And the message we have for CX, E, and S, Enterprise and the smaller system, is really echoed in this Atom release. We're going to talk about the new Atom, ATOM, feature set, and you're going to see that this is kind of, not only have we rebranded the product, but we've really refocused it as well. So Atom stands for AVST Total Office Manager, and this certainly includes the legacy kind of features we've always been famous for, voicemail and call processing, but that's a fairly small part of what this product does now. What it does now has been changed to reflect the fact that the way we work now has changed. If you go back 25 years ago when we were first selling the product as a voicemail system, the way people worked was much more focused on coming into work, sitting at a desk, working at a desk, going home. Certainly there have always been people who traveled. There's always been a certain amount of mobility, but it's been far less. And back then, applications were silos. Your voicemail sat there and connected only to your phone system. Your phone system really didn't connect to your local area network. Nothing connected to any of your computer applications. And that made the way products worked very, very different than the way you want them to work today. Because today it's all about interoperability. While you can take and put in an email system and a call processing system like ours and leave them separate and get very, very nice functionality, typical functionality you're used to, the way we can connect them together now is extending that functionality. It's giving you new ways to work, and it's supporting the fact that your employees work in a new way now too. Mobility is just such a growing part of it. Well, what you're worried about on your network, how you're supporting your employees. So a lot of what we're going to talk about in this release focuses on that mobility story. So if you look at what's in Atom, Atom is actually a packaging of a lot of our existing features and the new features that are in this software release. So things we've always had in the product: unified messaging, speech recognition, our personal assistant find me, follow me functionality is in there, but now we've changed it and we've added context-aware controls to it that we'll look at to make those features up above work much better and give a much better experience to the outside caller. We've had our mobile client for a while, and now the mobile client has new features and new functionality that tend to drive some of this new functionality, particularly the context-aware piece. This is our first truly multilingual release from a speech recognition point of view. We've always had many prompt sets for many languages, and text-to-speech has been multilingual, and our clients have been multilingual. But finally, with this release, throughout the entire machine, we are now multilingual, including the ability to support multiple languages with speech recognition. We're going to look at kind of that high-end piece that we talk about, our business process piece, the access to data. And then we're going to talk about workflows, and that's one of the things that our product does well because of its ability to integrate, is it gives you new kinds of workflows, lets you extend your existing workflows from your desktop out to your mobile employees. So we're going to go through kind of some concept slides here that talk about, kind of from a very high level, what Atom is, what it does, and how you want to think about Atom. And the first one is, Atom tells others when you're away. Now, we've always had a schedule, and users could change their schedule to reflect they're away. We've always had personal greetings, and for years, good voicemail etiquette said every day you'd record a new personal greeting. But no matter what you did, your day changed too rapidly, too many times, for you to accurately reflect what your day was like in your call processing system. But there are systems that know about where you are and what you're doing: your calendar, your instant messaging system from your Presence engine. So what Atom does at the very start is it links with those other systems that you're maintaining that have your status, your contacts, your presence, and ties those pieces of information in to how you manage your calls and messages. So we now have some very unique things that our system does that let you, as a user, have a much better experience, have your outside callers have a more knowledgeable experience, and it doesn't require the user to do anything that they're not already doing. So if you think about how we're going to do this, we're going to take the two of the systems that you have. Many of you have these in your enterprise today. Almost everybody has some sort of groupware calendar. And that groupware calendar, that's probably one of the most accurate databases around. We live and die by that calendar, particularly those of us that are mobile or attend a lot of meetings. So what we now can do is reach into that calendar and use that information. As an example, it can be set up so that when you're in meetings, the way you handle calls changes, and the information the caller gets changes with it. So here's a sample greeting. Now, this greeting is built on the fly by the system. Robert Johnson's set up so that he's using his calendar information in his CX system. So when he goes into a meeting, automatically the system changes mode, and the caller will now hear something like, "Robert Johnson is currently in a meeting and will be back at 11 a.m. Now, how much information we give the caller, of course, is programmable. Which users want to take advantage of this is programmable. But what we now have is the ability to tailor greetings based on what's going on in the user's day. You don't have to do anything to make this happen. You don't have to go in and set some flag when you go into a meeting. This all reads the information out of your calendar. And we do the same for Link. We can go into Link or OCS and read your current presence status. Now, that presence status has some really good information. It knows when you're at your desk by whether or not you've touched your mouse and keyboard in a reasonable amount of time. It knows certain statuses you might give it. Like, you could go in and set Do Not Disturb in Link, and that would now be reflected in your calls. In other words, when a call came in, if your Link status was Do Not Disturb, we wouldn't ring your desk. We'd send the caller straight to voicemail. And we'd change the greeting again. It would say, "Robert Johnson is not available." And then we'd go ahead in and play that to the caller and then process the call accordingly. So the ability to make that incoming call not only be handled differently based on existing information in your system, but also to change the kind of information you give to the caller. That makes a much better experience for the caller. Now they have expectations based on, like, if you say you're in a meeting and you won't be back until the end of the day, then they're pretty comfortable. They now have to proceed with other options. And, of course, we offer them those options in that greeting as well. Now, Presence does part of this. Presence, though, is, I don't want to say it's a misnomer, but it isn't really so much presence out of Link as it is, am I at my desk or not? If you're not at your desk, it doesn't really know where you are, and that's been helpful for a long time. But now that we're mobile so much, a better way to find out where we are is required. And we do that because Adam now knows your location. We have a location-based service that will now know when you're at the office, when you're at home, anywhere in between, or any other location you care to define. And we will adjust the call routing and the greetings, again, play to the caller based on that information. Now, there's no magic here. You're already carrying a device with you that always knows where you are, and that's your mobile phone. Mobile phones, by virtue of how they connect to cell towers, are constantly adjusting your location. Internally, there's a small engine that's pinging all the cell towers, noticing when you're moving close to one, far away from one, and it's keeping this piece of information in there that knows where you are. And what we've done is taken our mobile clients and extended them to read that information on the mobile device. This is not GPS. You don't have to have your GPS turned on. A lot of people have concerns over that because of battery life. This is actual cell tower triangulation that's already going on in your phone. All we're doing is peeking into that. Now, in this case, I took my phone and I went into the Bothell office. That's our engineering office up here outside of Seattle. And I said, oh, I'm going to build a location. So I turned on the location piece and I said, go out and, ping through the cell towers. And it told me where I was. I connected to my local Wi-Fi, and I added that. Now, those two pieces of information have created a location. My system, my CX system, now knows when I'm here. As soon as I walk in the office, it now knows, and I can use that. I can do things like, say, as soon as I walk in the office, start sending calls to my desk. Before that, I'm not in the office, send calls to my mobile phone. I actually went home and built another location at home. Same way, I did the cell tower triangulation, and I connected to my Wi-Fi. You only have to have one of the two of these. You don't have to do both. I just could do both, so I did it for accuracy. And now my CX system knows when I'm at home. So if it's during working hours and I'm at home, I actually can have the calls ring to my Link client in my office. As soon as I get in the car to drive to work, my calls automatically change, and they go to my mobile phone because I am not in either of my defined locations. Therefore, I'm considered to be somewhere else. So the ability to do that kind of location completely frees up a user to not have to worry about how their calls are going to get to them. The administrator builds some rules, sets them up, and pretty much the user never has to touch that device again. Adam goes mobile when you do, and this is kind of a catch-all category because the truth is everybody works fine at their desk with all the tools the company has given them. You've got a great computer and a local area network and a groupware package and a phone system, and you all kind of do that knowledge worker loop where you come in the morning, you open up email, you find the important message, you read it, you call a coworker, you go in and set up a calendar meeting request, you move on to that next one. That way of working is very, 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 very popular for almost everyone that sits at a desk. Problem comes when you move away from your desk. How much of that functionality can you take with you? So what Adam does is gives you as much of that functionality as possible. And we do that with messaging, so you can get your voice messages wherever you are, your email messages read to you over the phone. We give you a fantastic hands-free speech access, meaning when I'm in my car, I can be productive, I can call into the system, I can listen to my email, I can read my calendar, I can make new meeting requests, I can call people, I can forward messages out to people in my contacts. That gives me a much more productive environment than somebody that only has those tools at their desk. The mobile client does a lot of this for us. Our mobile client, we have two of them, one that's an Android and one that's an iOS. These run on the phones or on the tablet versions as well. And these do a couple of things. First, they segment business and personal communication. In the bring your own device world, it's very nice to be able to have users make their personal phone calls just on their mobile device regular and have them make their business phone calls through our app. And what that gives you is a record of all the business calls, and that's a very nice thing to have. And secondly, it hides the mobile phone number. When people make calls from the mobile client, they see the system number, which means the people come back in through the system, and you're literally tying your customers inside your system as opposed to having them pointed outside directly to the mobile phones. A lot of apps on this. The mobile location is one of the new ones that we added. We actually at the same time did a complete facelift for these apps. They've always been written in the toolkits that are appropriate for the devices, but what we've done is kind of monitor the industry and watch what apps look like and look how people are using the various pieces of the toolkit, so we gave them a nice update. So from a mobile user, mobile worker's point of view, our client gives them just a great set of features to keep them connected no matter where they are. And let's face it, most of us carry these devices with us all the time. And therefore, not only do you have that location service available, but you have your messages available, you have your incoming calls available, you can screen your calls silently. I mean, there's just hundreds of features you get, because this is the client that extends your desktop and gives you a great virtual desktop from the data channel of your mobile phone. We also understand administrators have some special challenges with being mobile. If you're out and about your building, there are certain things that people call you and say, my mailbox is locked out. I need to know that. I've forgotten my security code. I need you to fix that. So we also have a small format browser-based mini admin client. This is not the full admin client, but this lets the administrator remotely, whether it's through an iPad like showing here or just the browser on your mobile phone, go in and do those important features remotely. It's still secure. You have to have your credentials to get in through it. But then the user, can call you and you can unlock their mailbox sort of on the fly. So this is another piece that's in the 8.5 software release, another kind of focus on mobility. Atom provides a personal touch to important callers. Now, what's interesting in our marketplace is messaging hasn't changed all that much. Voicemail, the biggest change in voicemail is it's slipped in importance down a couple of notches because there's so many other messaging and real-time communication tools around. But messaging is only a small part of what we do. Call management is a very big part of what we do as well. And the ability to receive calls when you want them on the device you want them on is one of those things we've been doing for 10 years now. And Atom takes this further by taking those same context pieces and tying them together. So as an example, and we've always in our speech interface been able to screen calls. So if I'm riding in my car and my mobile phone rings, I have Bluetooth and I answer it, it'll say, you have a call from John Smith. Please say accept, reject, or acknowledge. Accept connects me, reject sends them to voicemail, and acknowledge lets me record a message and saying, yeah, listen, John, I'm just pulling into my parking lot. Give me about 20 minutes to get up to my desk and get set up, and I'll call you back. And the caller hears that personal message. So you've set a nice callback expectation. So that's been in the product for a lot of years. The one discussion point that always comes up is people say, well, I love that feature when I'm out, but most of my day I sit in a meeting. And if I'm in a meeting, I really can't answer all those calls and do that. So what can you do for me if I'm more meeting-based than out and about? And the answer, once again, happens to be the mobile client. The mobile client has that same call screening capabilities. And this call screening is not on the phone channel, it's on the data channel, which means the phone doesn't ring. So I can sit in a meeting, and if somebody from either in my contacts or on my system calls me, I can be set up such that I get a little pop-up and it shows me who it is. And then I have those same options. I can take the call, just step out in the hall maybe, or send it to voicemail, or record a message, that same kind of message. So most of us have been sitting in meetings triaging email, looking for that important email we knew might be coming in that actually might require us to leave the meeting. We've been doing that for years. Now you can triage for important phone calls as well. And what Atom 8.5 adds is the ability to respond silently. So now with our new mobile client, if I see a pop-up call and it says it's John Smith, and I definitely want to talk to him, but it's not quite important enough for me to step out of the meeting, I can hit one of these buttons, and an automatic message will say, Neil Butler was unable to take your call, but we'll call you back in 15 minutes. And then a reminder of that call goes in my mailbox in case I forget. So if I step out of my meeting and I get into voicemail, the first thing I'll hear is that reminder message, and I can say call back, since I captured that caller's ANI number when they called me, and it'll connect me to meet that commitment. So I now have completely silent triage monitoring for important phone calls in meetings. For those of you that spend a lot of time in meetings, I'm thinking that probably is a pretty appealing feature. Atom connects you to the cloud. I have to say, I've been in this industry a long time, and I've seen the attempt to do hosted solutions come and go. The difference now is the infrastructure is actually there. The bandwidth is there for almost all of this kind of functionality. So we're actually seeing real momentum in moving various pieces to the cloud, whether the cloud is a private cloud that you've deployed within your enterprise for your multiple sites, or a true public cloud where you're out using Office 365 or Gmail out in the cloud, or a hybrid cloud where you're mixed various pieces. Atom is ideally situated to do that. And all the things we deliver, when everything is inside your enterprise, we also deliver external when you start looking at that. The speech recognition piece is probably the single most productive piece in terms of adding productivity to your employees. Now, it's not meant to be used at your desk. I mean, there's a lot of great tools when you're in different environments. But if you have to be hands-free, and this I tend to talk about this in a car because that's the most typical place, what you can get with the Atom feature set basically duplicates what you can do at your desktop. So I can make outgoing calls. I can call anyone in my contacts, anyone in my system. I can actually dial by number. I can access my messages. I can listen to my voicemail. I can have my email messages read to me. I can read my calendar. Like I say, I've turned that commute time in the morning, into completely productive time. When I walk into my office and fire up my computer at my desk, there's probably no new emails or anything waiting for me. I've managed to do that triage. I can't handle everything from the phone, but the amount of calls that I can respond to and sort of delete makes it a much, much better experience for me to be able to do that with that speech recognition interface. Now remember, what we've done in 8.5 is this is now a multilingual interface. So I now have multiple languages that I can set up for users if they're not native English speakers. And that just broadens the base for this particular application. If you look at some examples of what the experience is, it's very intuitive, very little training required for this. So I talked about the call screening already. I can answer and I would hear, you have a call from Mark Reed. Please say accept, reject, acknowledge, or transfer. So I can actually say, oh, Mark, he's working with me and John. I can't take this call right now, but John can help him. And I can proactively transfer that call to John without actually answering it first, which frees me up to go about the task that maybe I feel is more important than this call, but at the same time gets that customer handled effectively. And if I say acknowledge, I actually get to record a brief message that's played to the caller and set a callback expectation or explain what's going on. Unique feature to our system, and I have to say, for those people who've started using our system, both our own people, our dealers, and our customers, this is one of the most well-received features. This is one of the things they tell us consistently. That is a great feature. That gives me a new piece of functionality I never thought of, and I've come to depend on it. Message management, of course, we do with the speech interface or a DTMF interface over the phone. But I now can simply, when I call in and it says, what would you like to do? I can say, get new messages, and I can be set up just to get voice messages or just to get email messages or to get voice and email messages. And the email is read with a nice, great nuanced text-to-speech piece that we have. So the ability, when I'm hands-free again, using that speech interface, lets me stay on top of the message queue, just like I'm staying on top of calls with that same mobile device. The calendar access piece is very nice as well. It has a lot more functionality than I use with it, and I'm sure it depends on what your day looks like. All I ever do is read it. And I have to tell you, I start my day every day. I get in my car and I say, get my appointments for today. And it comes back and it tells me what my schedule looks like. Now, I can go much further than that. I can accept meeting requests using that same interface. I can create new meetings. I can invite people from my contacts to those new meetings, and they'll get an email with the typical invitation. So that ability to access and maintain the calendar while you're just using a phone interface is another popular part of the product. The fact that contacts are out there, and we don't make a big thing of this, I think, a lot of times, but this is an amazing enhancement. So you have your contacts, and whether this is on your Exchange, your Office 365, your Gmail, your Lotus Notes, wherever you have those contacts, what CX actually does is syncs those contacts into the system. So as a user, basically I have a connection to my Exchange server, and all my contact info is in CX. Now that does a lot of things. First of all, this is the most simple thing. I can actually say, get contact info. For who? Mark Reed. What do you want? And it'll read me the various pieces. Now, beyond that, I can also send messages. So I can be driving down the road and think, oh, I have that meeting this afternoon with that person in my contact. I'm going to be a half hour late. And I can go send a new message, record your message. Yeah, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry, I'm going to be about a half hour late today. I hope that's not a problem. I'll get there as soon as I can. Who do you want to send it to? Mark Johnson. He's in my contact. What happens now is Mark gets an email, and he has the WAV file attachment of my message. I can also say, call Mark Johnson. It'll come back and say, business, mobile. The integration of contact is complete, and it lets me be much more productive with the outside world, which is where a lot of my business exists. So we've referred to the multilingual a bit. Adam speaks your language. So we do U.S. English, North American Spanish, Canadian French, and we also have UK English or Australian English for our other markets. We also have Swedish. Now, the truth is this isn't enough languages, but what the 8.5 release has done, it's been re-architected so that the entire application is now threaded from start to end to support multilingual, and these are the extra languages that we've added in first pass through. We do not have to change the product to add more languages. We simply need to start working on the grammars. So, there's a grammar for English, and it knows how to recognize things like get my messages. So we did that in Spanish. We figured out what that had to be in Spanish and built the grammar, and we did it in French Canadian. Now what we have to do is build those grammars for the other languages. The next set we're working on is FIGS, French, Italian, German, and Spanish. And you'll see us release language packs for this. They don't have to come out with releases. They'll just sort of come as soon as we have the grammar pieces built. So Adam's the first, is what the people told us. Even before we got it into beta, the analysts looked at this and really liked the message. They thought it resonated with what's going on out in the industry. If you think about all the speech recognition that's gotten popular since Siri has sort of brought it out to the press, and you think of all these things that people are doing with all their devices, what we're now doing is tying all that functionality into an enterprise type of deployment. So with our multilingual speech recognition and the languages that we now have a couple of different pieces. So the user interface is a big piece. So that's what I talk about. So, as a user, I can go in and let's say I'm a North American Spanish native speaker. I'll go into my mailbox and set that up, and that's now my interface language, and all my commands can be issued in that language. But equally as important, for front-facing applications like a speech-based automated attendant, all the call processors, all the menus are multilingual as well. And what that means is I can go in and I can build my typical menu. This is just one of my menus, and you can see I've got English selected from the list at the bottom, and I've enabled the various things so the user can say operator now, and it'll transfer to the operator. They can say somebody's name, and that directory all command will automatically they can hang up. All of those features are there. But I've also loaded Spanish in here, but the little icon is telling me the exclamation mark is saying I haven't created all of the phrases that I need to recognize. I've put them in English, but I haven't put them in Spanish yet. So all I really need to do to enable this same menu tree is to go in and figure out, so what I've written in English is customer service. I just need to figure out what the correct phrase is in Spanish. And then either of those are recognized. So I don't have to build separate menu trees for the languages. I actually simply need to understand what the phrases need to be to do that. And then, of course, you can see at the bottom there's multiple phrases because people might say things different ways in every language. Just like customer service would have support or service or customer support, then I would do those same kind of things in all of the languages. So very easy to deploy and doesn't require maintaining separate sets of menus. We talked about the cloud a little bit. We certainly have added Office 365 in our last software release. And what we've now done, and we had a partial integration to Google. Now we've added full Google Apps Calendar and Contacts to the integration. So if you are thinking about or have already moved some of your users out into the cloud to Google, then you get the same features we're talking about. We just don't care that that particular piece happens to be in the cloud. We have the protocol support to make that work. Now, what does that mean? That means that calendar. So you can now listen to your Google Calendar. You can call in and say, get my events for today. The Google Calendar will change your greetings, all those things we talked about. Now, the one thing in the calendar you can't do with Google yet, and maybe we'll get this going in an upcoming release, you can't create a new calendar meeting. You can't do that piece. But you can do the whole monitor the calendar over the phone. And then the contacts piece is there. So if you're maintaining all your contacts in Google, then you get all those pieces. You get the ability to call those people, send messages to those people. And in a unified messaging environment, when that call comes in, if they're calling from one of the numbers in their contacts, we will actually add the user's name to the record because we actually can take that, look up that ANI number and say, oh, no, that's in your contacts, and that reflects this particular person. So a great, tight integration. So if you look at all of these pieces, all this context and all these mobility-focused solutions, This really is where not only our product is going, but where everyone's going. And we're doing more and more work on more and more devices traveling through the day, and that flexibility is very important. We're not only adding more flexibility, we're automating things. When your system is set up correctly, your CX will send you calls to the right device based on time of day, what your calendar says, what your presence says, where you are physically located. It just makes it so much easier for a user to be well connected and not even have to do anything to get that kind of connection. A lot of other pieces in 8.5, not that they're not important, but we kind of go through those a little more quickly. They're more architecture pieces. So secure SIP, if you have a SIP integration these days. Security obviously is a focus everywhere. So the SIP protocol uses a couple of pieces called SRTP and SIP Secure, and we now support those. So what we're now doing is working our way through our integrations, our SIP integrations, one at a time, testing this, getting it all documented and released. So it's in the product. It's now just a matter of us testing and documenting it for all the integrations. We have single sign-on for Web Phone Manager. This has been in larger enterprises an issue that's come up many times, where once, this is kind of the portal question, where once a user gets in and signs in on the portal, why do they have to put their credentials in when they go to our user web client? So what we've done is we've taken the most popular version, SAML, and we've said if you're using SAML, then and you have a federated presence server of some type, when you're already logged into your machine, you're sitting at your desk, when you go to WPM, Web Phone Manager, our user web client, it will authenticate off your existing credentials. So you don't have to re-enter your mailbox number or your security code. Now, we started this out with SAML because that is the most popular language for security assertion, and all we've tested with so far is Active Directory Federation services, but anything using SAML and a federated directory should work fine. If you have questions, if you're using something slightly different, we are happy to have a conversation to talk about that. As with every software release, there's the big things we talk about and we put into the build up front, and then there's 100 little improvements that come along that software cycle where people point out things to us and we make small changes, and we're pretty good at documenting them, although the word doesn't necessarily get out all the time on all of these features. So we've done a lot of little things like add Atom as a hands-free hot word. So hot words are, we can put our system, let's say I'm in my car and I'm driving through a drive-through and I'm gonna get lunch, but I'm in a session, I'm listening to my messages. I really can't be talking to the lady in the machine and the lady in the window at the same time, so I can pause my call. And before I would say call express, hold call. We've added Atom hold call as well. So just another easier way to do that. We've changed the distribution list methodology we're using for large distribution lists, because as our system's grown from being typically deployed in 8 to 12 ports 15 or 20 years ago, it's now we have many systems over 300 ports, and large distribution lists can get very, very processor intensive. So we've come up with a method that makes them much more responsive. The hold music that we've had on the product for a lot of years has been updated. Everybody felt that the old music was getting a little bit dated, so now there's a new version of that, and it's actually just a new WAV file that we've licensed in. If you've used our product before or seen some of our presentations, we have click-to-call. So if you're using our unified messaging add-in on Outlook, you can actually go to either a message that has a number associated with it, like the ANI number, and click on it and call that person back, or you could have gone into your contacts and done that same thing, highlight a contact, and then a number list would come up. In this version of software, we extended that, so that Outlook contact card also will offer you that if you're looking at the GAL, the global address look. So anything you have an address for on screen with a phone number, you can now use our click-to-call functionality. One of the great things about interoperability is we get to leverage other people's software, like the operating systems that we run on and the SIP stack that we use and all these pieces. The downside of that is those people have to change their software on a regular basis just like we do, so there's a lot of interconnectivity to be tested and supported. So in any software release, we have a lot of things that we add support to keep current. So Windows 8 for the administrative client was added this time. The new Outlook 2013 for our clients is supported. The RealSpeak engine that we've been using by Nuance, they updated it, a major upgrade, to Vocalizer for Network, a much better product. And so that had to be kind of stitched in and tested. Our high availability piece got updated to a new version of Never Fail. Acculab drivers for some of our card-based integrations, and the new Java 7. All of that was put in and tested. Now, we're very proud of the fact that we started working on this system in 1982, and you could have actually bought the system in 1985 and recorded your name and greeting and still be using that same recorded name and greeting today, because we were lucky. We started with open systems. And what that meant was we've never had to sunset our product, so we have more features in our product by far than anyone. And we always talk about, there's no reason to take features out. However, sometimes it's just handy for us to change things around a little. And some of this is based on things outside our control. Some of this is based on usage patterns. So as of 8.5, there's a few features that have been discontinued. I don't think these will affect anybody. We have networking, the old voicemail networking. We still support networking, but we had 4 kinds of it. Our own proprietary analog, AMOS, which is the kind of standards-based analog, and then 2 types of digital networking. So with 8.5, we're not supporting our own older analog networking. We still support analog networking through AMOS. We don't know of any customers using our old analog networking, but we just like to make sure people know that. UC Connect is one of our toolkits. We have a great set of toolkits to let you write custom applications on our platform. We've been doing that for years. We're now to the point where the older applications written, and these would be almost 10 years ago, I would suspect, for most of them, if they were written in VB6, an older version of Microsoft Visual Basic, those will now have to be rewritten, because that particular set of components to run those doesn't work very well in the new .NET language. And then DPNSS integrations are a type of digital trunk integrations, and basically those are only used in Europe, and those have now all been discontinued by the manufacturers, so we have a strategy to move anybody forward that happens to have one of those. If we look at kind of our product, we certainly started out in the voicemail days. We were the partner voicemail you'd buy at your local branch office when you bought an Octel at your main facility. And that was a great market for us in the early days, and we did extremely well in it. We were certainly the leader in that branch office. But, we got greedy. We wanted bigger and more, so we kept growing our system. And now our market tends to be more in the enterprise space. But we still do a lot of pure voicemail replacements, legacy replacements. But your choice now when you look at our product, while it includes the voice piece, the call processing and things like that, the new piece, the mobile piece, and the custom business process piece are also options. And maybe they're not options you'll take step 1. Maybe you have a kind of a critical mandate to get off that old Octel system, because pretty soon it's not going to work at all. And so that's what you've put in place, and that's what you want to focus on. And when we come out and talk with you, that's what we'll discuss. But we'll usually also make sure you're comfortable with the fact that down the road, if you want to move to these new pieces, we have them in the product already, and we're certainly the leader in these unified communication types of applications. I would say 75% of the time when I go into a legacy voicemail replacement kind of presentation, they start off by telling me, well, all they're really going to do is replace the voicemail today, but they're certainly interested in seeing what we have. And we talk about these new applications, and 75% of the time they buy some of them, because some of them are just so compelling. It might just be unified messaging, or a speech rec automated attendant, because the ROI is so easy to see, or the personal assistant, the Atom routing for just their management people that travel a lot. This is the kind of platform where you start with today with what you need to get, and you're able to grow and move forward. And that's always our goal, to give you more and better and more exciting unified communications applications. It's what we do best, and we are certainly recognized for that in the industry. And now we'll see if there are any questions.
Of course, we do have lots of questions. The first question is about the mobile client, and they're wondering if there's going to be a client available for the Windows phone.
So when we started, we built 3 clients. When we started building these, we built BlackBerry, because it had a huge market share in the enterprise. And then when we really started looking at these, of course, the Androids and the iPhones were growing very rapidly. Between then and when we released it, the BlackBerry future kind of got tarnished in terms of nobody's buying new BlackBerries right now on an enterprise level. So there isn't enough business justification for doing that. At the same time, when we started, we looked at the Windows phones, And when we started, it would have been Windows Phone 7. But the deployment at a enterprise level was just very, very low. Now it's a lot better now with the Windows 8 phones, but it's still not high enough. We still haven't had enough customers show us that that's the direction they're going to take. Building this for Windows is not any kind of problem at all. It's just a matter of we need to see more market density, and Microsoft has to do a better job at beefing up their store, because let's face it, most of us buy these smartphones not for the phone, but for the toys. And right now, Android and iPhone have more toys than BlackBerry and Windows. So we always watch that, but there is no active plan, certainly no active development on the Windows side right now.
Okay, great. Next question. Can Atom be set up for individuals or only enterprises?
So definitely for individuals. Keep in mind, Atom is a group of features. Now we have, because so many people want all of this functionality, we have built packages. So you can, license 100 people for Atom, and that gives you all the licenses you need underneath. But there's nothing stopping you from loading up one user with everything that we have. Actually, that's not true. I think our smallest license pack for some of these licenses is probably 25. But yeah, it is not an all or nothing. In fact, the discussions we have talking about how to deploy this are some of the most interesting ones out there, because not every person, based on how they work, will benefit from all these features. So while Atom is the correct way to approach it for somebody who wants everything, if you have 100 people that are going to use Atom because those are your mobile people, but you still have another 500 people that all you want is desktop unified messaging, we still can do that. We still can piece part all of those licenses together.
Okay, great. Next question. For contacts access, can you access both global and personal contacts?
No. And the reason is those global address lists are huge and not very well maintained in many cases. So for us to put that in, now keep in mind, one of the things we're doing with that global address book, right, is we're building grammars for the speech recognition piece. So in other words, when I sync all my contacts up, a small grammar actually gets built so that I can say, call John Tyler. When you start putting the global address list in there with, tens of thousands of names sometimes, the ability to sort through all of that becomes very, very difficult. So for right now, contacts is just your personal contacts.
Okay. Next question. Are all these features out of the box on 8.5? Which options require a license?
So Atom, the Atom feature set requires a couple of licenses or the packaged Atom license. So just kind of a really high level for licensing, and then you'll really have to involve us more directly for specifics. We do not license users. So if you put a system in, you license a number of ports based on how big a system you need, then you can add as many voicemail users as you want. We do license unified messaging on a per-user basis, personal assistant, the find me, follow me piece, and that also includes the right to load the mobile client on a per-user basis. And we do license speech recognition on a per-channel basis, so how many active speech recognition sessions do you need at once? Those are all bundled also into an Atom license. So licensing, depending on what you want, can be a very easy discussion, or it can be a little more complex if we have to break out the piece part components. But definitely for the things we saw under Atom, there are licenses required. Now keep in mind, if you're an existing customer, all of our systems sell with a small number of licenses. So at a minimum, if you have our system, you have 5 personal assistant licenses and 5 unified messaging licenses. If you bought it a few years ago, you have 50 of each of those. That doesn't give you everything because there's no speech rec in there, but it gives you a lot of the functionality we talked about. So it's one of those discussions you want to have either with us or with your vendor to figure out exactly how to license up what you'll actually need.
Okay, next question. Does Call Express hold call still function?
Yes, Call Express is still in there. We just added Atom as an extra one.
Okay.
And I have to say, I tried Atom once when I read that, and I've continued saying Call Express because I've been doing that for years.
Next question. Can we modify these speech commands, or are they hidden behind the scenes?
So the thing with speech commands, what we're doing is called command and control, and that means we have to define what it is we're going to recognize. And it's a real art building a speech command set, because the goal, of course, is to make it easy. And you think, well, let's just make it recognize lots and lots of things, and that makes it easy on the user, but the accuracy goes down and the speed for recognition goes up. So building that grammar is kind of one of the things we're very good at because we've been doing it for so long. Once again, keep in mind the speech recognition product is well over 10 years old. So, I mean, we've been at this a long, long time. If we were to open it up and let people modify those, the odds of them coming up with things that worked well is pretty low, because it's not obvious what kind of things you do without having that experience. So today, the only speech recognition piece that you can adjust are the menu commands. So if you're doing a menu, a speech automated attend menu, and you want to put in accounting, or you want to put in operations, or North Side Campus, that you can do on those pieces. But in terms of the user interface itself, that you can't touch.
Okay, next question. Can we customize the hold music by changing the WAV file?
Depends on who you ask. So yes, it's a WAV file. And I've been told that calls to tech support sometimes end up with the, I'm sorry, but we don't really support that. But if you call somebody else, probably, they will tell you the name of that file and where it is. And you simply need to match the format of the file, and then, yes, you can do that. And there are hundreds and hundreds of systems running with different ones.
Okay. Another question about contacts. On click-to-call, can you access both global and personal contacts? Currently, yes. I can only use personal.
Well, personal is how we started, but with 8.5, it now works with a global address list as well.
Okay. Next question. We're running on 8.5 beta with never fail 6.3. Must we upgrade to never fail 6.7?
Yeah, it's going to be a support issue where I believe you're going to have to do that. And what you need to do is call into tech support. The new Never Fail has a couple of things that we're doing that have to do with licensing. So even if you might get away with it short term, when the time comes to renew the ExpressCare license, I believe that will be an issue as well. So just have, if you're not on premium ExpressCare, have your vendor just call into tech support, and they'll give you the actual answer to that. But I think the answer is yes, you do have to upgrade it.
Okay. What improvements are there for scheduling time of day and holidays other than the SX file?
Okay, so start that. What was that again?
Do we have any improvements for scheduling time of day and holidays?
No. Now, you should know, though, if you're a Schedule Express user, that that whole functionality is being put into the core product, but it is not there in 8.5. It should be there in 8.6. They're still working on it. Those of you that use Schedule Express know that's a fairly complex piece. So there's a lot of functionality for routing how we answer calls in the product today, but it's not as rich or easy to maintain as Schedule Express is. So that functionality will come, but it's not in this release yet.
Okay. When talking about licensing, Adam, they're asking if it's a PA license.
So Adam is a combination of a PA license and a unified messaging license on a per-user basis, plus enough speech licenses. So let's say we say we're going to license 500 users for Adam. That would be 500 PA licenses, 500 licenses, and I want to say 12 or 16 ASR licenses. So when you bought it through Adam, those would be packaged together. And the packaging is all about lowering the price down. So while you could still, with the product, even with 8.5, order 500 PA licenses, 500 licenses, and 16 ASR ports, what you'd see if you did that is, if I just get 500 Adam users, it costs a lot less.
Okay. Can this version be deployed on D82 cards or only using SIP integrations?
Now, this supports the full range of our integrations. So, yes, D82 cards, although, and nothing changed in this release with the Dialogic drivers. So if you're on, if you're on 8. Anything and you move to this, you're gonna be fine. But yes, we support. I'm not sure. There's very few features that even know what kind of integration we have. There's a few things you can't do on SIP integrations that you can do on older integrations, having to do with fax tone detection and a few things like that. But there is no case where we're releasing features that don't work on the older integrations.
Okay. And the last two questions are both about the same question. They're wondering how long before 8.6.
Yeah, that's historically, if you were to ask our management, they'd say we do one software release a year. Historically, we've done either 2 or 3 for the last couple of years because there's so much going on in the market. 8.6, 8.5 is just out the door. That doesn't mean we haven't already started working on 8.6. And typically what happens is we put everything we want into 8.6, and after we get 3 months into the development cycle, we start saying, okay, this one's a little harder than we thought. So now we're going to do like software update 1 to 8.5. So I think you'll see another release before the end of the year. It probably won't be 8.6. It'll probably be called 8.5 Software Update 1 because there's some things that I think we can have done in that time frame. But our big major release, 8.6, if you ask marketing right now, they would probably tell you end of first quarter next year, I would guess. Out there far enough, it's not even completely defined yet, so you won't see it soon.
Okay, and that looks like that's all the questions we have. So again, we want to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to attend our webinar. And Neil, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I'm always impressed that people manage to get here and listen to us. It's time out of your day, and you have all those other things you probably should be doing. This is what we do today, so it's easier for us. So I appreciate it. And once again, we really value feedback from you on you like these, you want more, they go too fast, they go too slow, could you please cover this? We have a whole group of people whose job it is to build these great webinars, and they would love to hear from you in terms of what you'd like to see.
Thanks again, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a great day.